Good evening, and welcome to Almost Five Guys, Movies and Fries. I am Nakula, and joining us we have Joe.
Hey there.
And Jeff.
Yo.
My selection for the end of our horror-themed run is a Korean film from 2016 called The Wailing.
Is this the new Brendan Fraser movie?
It should be partnered with The Whale with Brendan Fraser.
This is the prequel. This is him becoming the whale, the Wailing.
Yeah.
Oh. I might have watched the wrong movie, actually.
Just the brief synopsis of the movie. We follow sort of a dim-witted police sergeant in a small Korean village. I can pretty much tell it's present tense, as far as we can tell. Soon after a stranger arrives, a Japanese man arrives in the small Korean village. A mysterious sickness starts spreading, and the sergeant drawn into the incident is forced to solve the mystery in order to save his daughter. This was a very recent viewing for me. I'd only seen it maybe a month or two before recommending it, but after seeing the trailers and after getting into plenty of other foreign films and Korean films, it was an easy choice for me for a horror film, mainly for the way the story was told, and for just the suspense that it held up throughout pretty much mostly the second half of the movie. But it did a good job during like the first half of the movie of giving me kind of providing like a tug of war as to whether I'm actually rooting for this dim-witted fucking sergeant or not, because he's just kind of a dummy and not a good cop. He's not a good police officer. But yeah, I don't have a lot of depth to provide to the movie. In terms of having not seen it that many times, but just to get some initial thoughts, start with Joe.
Yeah, so I liked it. It's a movie. It seems complicated, but it's just because there's a few twists and turns. It has a really good sense of intrigue. I was on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what was behind the mystery, and also just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be trying to figure out, because it's kind of unclear what's happening for a lot of the movie. It really is a mood movie to me. Like it has the air of a mystery and this sense of intrigue that makes you wonder what's happening, so you have to keep watching. Like, it's unclear, what the supernatural element is. If there's a witch, if there's a zombie plague, you don't exactly know what's exactly going on. One thing I liked about it was the acting. Some people say that the acting was over the top, but I thought it was really refreshing to just see people screaming their heads off at zombies, and because in a lot of movies zombies show up and then they just start beating the shit out of the zombies, but this movie, people are paralyzed with fear, and then the zombies just catch up to them and bite their faces off. And speaking of that, the makeup and the effects were top notch.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I did really like the girl who played Hyo-jin, because she seems like she's like a 12 or something in this movie, but she was really putting everything into her scenes.
Like, Joe, she understood the assignment.
Yeah.
She was one of the best child actors I've ever seen, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I don't have anyone's names memorized, but I know you're talking about the daughter.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked is that it feels like a South Korean folk tale, which I believe it was influenced by some folk tales and some mythology, but it also blends some Bible references, I believe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the Bible's always scary. I mean, there's a lot of scary stuff in there. So I appreciated that as well. What did you think about it, Jeff?
I really liked it. I also would definitely call attention to the makeup and some of the acting from most of the people in the movie. I thought the Japanese man was played really well, as well as the daughter. I thought she did a good job. Something about Korean cop movies. The cops are always bumbling, at least in the ones that I've watched. You watch like Memories of a Murder, or this or Mother, and a lot of the times the cops are just presented as kind of clueless in a lot of ways. And I don't know if that's a Korean thing or if that's just the movies that I happen to have seen, but that's
I
a
mean,
common thread that I've seen in the ones that I've watched.
yeah, I mean that's an American thing as well. I mean, we got
Mm.
Chief Wiggum from The Simpsons.
But I think the fact that he that Jong-gu, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
Yes. Yeah.
I believe the fact that he is kind of bumbling and a little bit of a doof really adds to his character a lot. Because like we see him just kind of, falling over himself and just kind of being a dipshit in the beginning, and it makes him really susceptible to manipulation, and it makes that manipulation a lot easier to buy later in the movie. It also, I think, lends a lot to the intensity of his act, because he just doesn't know what's going on and he can't piece it together at all because he just kind of sucks as an investigator. So I wish that this is just me personally, but I feel like there's this undertone of like this stranger coming into the village and everybody immediately pointing at the stranger because he's a stranger. And I think the payoff at the end for me would have felt better had it not been the Japanese man, had it been somebody else. But at the same time, like I don't know. I mean, it's a small thing, and I'm okay with the fact that it ended up being the Japanese man. I just think it could have said more had it been somebody else. That everybody just assumed it was him because he was the stranger, but he was the only person it could have been throughout the movie. Is the only implication I saw, anyways.
I agree with that. I mean, I predicted that because they did fake out. They did a fake out where it seemed like it wasn't the Japanese man, but then they did another fake out, and then it was.
Yeah.
And
I would have liked it.
Go ahead.
I feel like I would have liked it better if the guy who was doing the ritual for them that they were paying to, like, the shaman, if it had turned out that he was the one poisoning the daughter in the village and that the Japanese man was truly trying to save them, I think that would have had a better emotional payoff than it just being the Japanese man that everybody blamed from the beginning.
But didn't he have a role in it? Because he was at the end taking a photograph, right?
Yeah, because we find out that the shaman was working with the Japanese man. He had all of his photographs in that box as he was leaving the village at the end of the movie.
The delivery of that knowledge was hella heavy-handed. The man's just like, oops, I dropped this box full of photographs on the ground here. But yeah, if it had just been him and not him and the Japanese man, I think it would have had a little bit more substance, but that also could just be me being pretentious. At the end of the day, I still think it was really good. And I liked the ending. I feel like the movie did a great job, especially in the back third, of really ratcheting up that tension. And I liked the decision that he had to make to go back to the house with the well, let me look up her name. She's just listed as Mysterious Woman.
Mu Myung. It translates to no name.
In one description, it refers to her as White Lady. And when I read that, I was like, wait, is there a Caucasian person in this movie? Like, I literally didn't know what they were talking about. But White Lady is like a folk, like a witch or something like that.
I would have liked it if we'd have gotten just a tiny bit more of her before she became so prominent in the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because like we just kind of see her in the background, and then all of a sudden she's like super important. It's like you can't go back to the house until you hear the three
the
bells or whatever, the three.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yep.
it was Bell. Was it Bells? No, it was a
No, it's a
No, it was
yeah.
a crow. It was crow.
It was Crow.
No,
That's it.
it was a rooster. It's a Bible thing, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I got. There, my first viewing of the movie, I was trying to figure out whether who the antagonist was. I couldn't. I was bouncing between the Japanese man and Moo Myung, the no name woman in white. I really liked how the movie just sort of played with where it's leading your direction, like when the sergeant's talking to the shaman and talking about the death ritual, he mentions, hey, no alcohol or sex, and that made me think, like, it was the shaman brought on just by his mother-in-law just to get him off of his stupid off of his bad habits. Like, it I thought it did a decent job of just sort of tugging me in different directions, really.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's interesting. Yeah. I believed that it was the Japanese man until I mean, because I always suspect the least suspicious person until they made it seem like it had to be him. Then I was like, oh, it's obviously not going to be him.
Yeah.
And then
imagine how great that payoff would have been if they would have killed him, and then he was the person that was protecting the daughter, and now she's unprotected because they killed off the one man that was trying to, because of prejudices. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
I agree. Yeah. I wonder why they made it the way they did. I don't know.
It's still great. I really liked the payoff, or just the way that scene went with the two rituals between the Japanese man and the man, or the shaman, performing their opposite, or what felt like at the time opposite rituals. Because at the time you believe that the shaman is working for them, and then the dad coming out telling him to stop is really screwing over his daughter. We later find out that, like, it saved her at the time, at the very least. You know what I mean? But I really like that scene specifically, just that back and forth of cutting between the two of them and it feeling like they're really battling each other. I also like that it leaned into the supernatural. Like, it wasn't a Scooby-Doo masked villain where they were just toying with him. Like, it was truly supernatural. People were truly possessed, and I like that it leaned into that.
Yeah, I mean, there was some doubt that it could not be a supernatural thing, and it could be a science fiction thing, like a parasite or whatever.
They blame the mushrooms. I think they blame the mushrooms.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I really like this flick a lot. I've learned to really love Korean flicks in general, and I just really like Asian horror, because Asian horror really ratchets it up. And this movie was just super tense in the back half, and Korean flicks, at least the ones that I've seen, have done a really good job of blending genres. Like, this one felt like kind of a comedy, kind of felt like a murder mystery, kind of felt like, supernatural horror. And that blend of genres, I think, really adds to each genre individually, instead of it just being nonstop horror. You know what I mean? Because we have that comedy and because we have that mystery, it really lends to the horror in a lot of ways instead of it just being nonstop, But yeah, that's my initial thoughts, anyways.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it was enjoyed between all of us.
I'd be curious to know what our friend Will would think. Do you think he would have actually been, like, terrified to the point where he would have had to turn it off or anything?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
No.
I made the mistake of comparing the level of horror I experienced to Possum, which was totally inaccurate. Like, Possum does a real good job of being, psychologically horrifying. But
yeah, Possum truly fucked me up. This movie didn't fuck me up. Possum fucked me up.
Right. Yeah, it just surprised me, really. There are enough surprises in this movie where it was a bad comparison that I made initially. But yeah, I was really hoping Will would have made the time to watch the movie, but he's got a full plate.
Yeah, that's okay.
Like, yeah, I I just really like how it just sort of blends the mystery. Like right off the bat, the first thing we see we see the scene where a Japanese man is eating the deer carcasses in the forest, and then it's just Zhang-gu's partner just telling some creepy story. Like, you think that's scary? It's scaring my ass. You know, we get these moments of little bits of comedy, and it doesn't feel like a just straight horror movie. I liked how many elements were put into this movie to just provide different atmospheres and feelings.
Yeah, I love Korean flicks, man. I really do. Like, I mean, Bong Joon-ho is really what pulled me into it, but I don't know. I haven't seen many that I haven't liked. I more recently watched like. No, but I'm just saying, like, Bong Joon-ho is originally what got me into Korean films.
Oh yeah.
But like I think about like Train to Busan or, once again Bong Joon-ho, like Memories of a Murder. They just. It's not about a single genre. It feels like it's just let's throw them all into a fucking pot and see where we end up. And I like that. It feels refreshing. This movie felt refreshing for a horror movie. Yeah.
Do you want to get
into thoughts, Mac?
Well,
I'll check my notes, but you can kind of fill the time with whatever here, I guess.
I was gonna say, do we want to get into the questions?
Oh yeah.
I didn't even see the questions. You guys will have to recite them to me.
We have already touched on some of them, but yeah.
Okay.
Or was it in general? Yeah, initially. Let's see.
I didn't even realize this movie was 2.5 hours long. It did not feel like 2.5 hours.
I didn't mind the runtime. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and what did we think of the protagonist, Jung-gu?
I loved him. I thought he was a perfect delivery for this movie.
And like you were saying, because with him being kind of dim-witted, it just makes his journey all the more engaging for me.
Yeah, like if it had been like some
just to actually devoting himself to figuring out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, and if he'd have been like some super cop, it just wouldn't have felt natural. You know what I mean? Like seeing a human being go through this, and especially like the scenes with his daughter and shit, like it just doesn't feel cookie cutter. I could have easily seen this movie and being released in America with like some hard-boiled, he's actually a good detective, but kind of a drunk kind of character, and that's not what we got here. We just got a fuck up. You know what I mean? Like we just got a,
yeah, I mean,
butt-ass character.
Audiences do love their super detectives like Sherlock Holmes or whoever, but we also love the bumbling everyman. But this movie, we haven't touched on it, but it's about his daughter becoming a zombie or like a murderer, which it's one of the most fucked up things a movie can do is have the children be the ones who are going to die or whatever. So, yeah, it wouldn't have worked at all if he was a super astute detective. He has to be more relatable for this to work.
Well, and they do a great job of selling the relationship between him and his daughter in the beginning. His daughter is so fucking cute in the beginning of the movie that, like, seeing her go through that, like, you feel what he feels. Like, you feel like shit watching her go through that. You understand why he's so frantic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, good. What scenes, if any of them, made you change or question your perspective on anything?
I mean, I was just following Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
No, you go first. Go ahead.
Okay, I just followed the basic rule that the least suspective person is the most suspective person is the person who you should not suspect. So like when the movie was kind of telling us to suspect the Japanese guy, I was like, it's not going to be him. And then once the movie was telling us it's not him, then I was like, maybe it is him. I can't point to any scenes because this movie doesn't. It's not that amazing of a mystery as an audience member trying to figure out what's going on, but it does have a good sense of intrigue for trying to figure out how it's going on, like what supernatural element is at work here. So I can't point to any specific scene that made me question who I thought the antagonist was. What do you think, Jeff?
I was kind of wavering for a bit after they first show up to his house, and he's like running. There's like this bit where he's like running away and he's hiding behind a rock and like crying, like the man's crying, beat to shit, hiding behind that rock. And at that moment, I like kind of felt for his character because I thought the movie was going to go the way that I wanted it to go, where like he wasn't the villain of the movie. So for me, not only did I not really suspect him, I suspected that they were wrong and that was going to be the payoff. So when we got that scene where he's like crying and like trying to hide from them, I was like, here we are. You know what I mean? Like this is what they're doing because of their choices. But yeah, that was definitely the moment where like I was solid in what I expected and what I thought the movie was going to do, because we saw that that human moment from him. You know what I mean? Like he's fucking scared. He's sad because he's just trying to live his life and potentially protect this girl. And
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
So do you think this movie works as like a morality tale? Because the protagonist Jong-gu, he's kind of an idiot. He cheats on his wife. He has sex in a car.
Yep.
And he drinks a lot, which maybe in South Korean culture that's a terrible thing. Is this movie supposed to be a morality tale? Like his child is being punished for what he does.
I mean, the white lady says that at one point that he's being punished.
Yeah.
But she says that, I can't remember what the line is. She said that he's being punished for something else, though. She says that he's being punished for pointing the finger at somebody or something.
Yeah. She's being punished because her father has sinned, and because her father had pointed the finger at somebody else. It's there are a couple parts of the movie where I was wondering whether humans, but both the Japanese guy and Moo Myung, the woman in white, were being inhabited by like a devil and an angel. That's how I because at the beginning we see Moo Myung as the tramp throwing rocks at the sergeant and his partner, and talking about and sort of letting him in on the fact that the Japanese man should be suspected. But it's not until it's probably before that, but it's not until we see the shaman approach the sergeant's house while the woman in white is there, and he gets violently sick. It seems like she was like at that moment. It seems like she was still a regular just tramp on the street when she initially tells the sergeant about that he should suspect the Japanese man. But when we get to that scene, it just becomes so much bigger, and she's clearly not human at that point. So there are parts where I thought like when they're chasing the Japanese man, he's not I don't think like he's being inhabited. He's not being possessed at that moment, and that's why he shows so much fear. But
okay. Was that scene in a dream when the Japanese woman, when the mysterious lady,
when she does what?
When she throws the rocks at the police station or whatever?
No, not at the police station. It's when the sergeant is standing right outside of the crime scene, and she's just inching closer to them, just throwing rocks while he's sitting down.
Oh, right.
Not a dream. The scene where after she disappears and he gets chased by the Japanese man, that's led on to make you think like it's a dream, but later we find the woman in white tells us that it was not a dream.
That's a layer I didn't know existed for this movie.
Because it definitely portrays that scene to make us think like he was imagining, he was dreaming it, because he wakes up in a cold sweat. But
Yeah, but it's interesting that you have an interpretation of this movie, sort of like Jeff and I have, where we wish there was an alternate ending.
Yeah.
But so what was the mysterious lady's role in all this? She was just a ghost?
I think she was an angel. I think or something, or somebody, at least an entity that's clearly going against the Japanese man. But when we get to that scene where the shaman gets just violently sick, even just getting within her general vicinity, that's telling me that I took that as, she's got this bubble, this aura around her that's poisonous to demons, and the shaman is being controlled by the Japanese man, by some demonic power. That's why he gets so sick. Gets close to her.
Yeah, that checks out.
Well, she's using the sergeant too. She's 100% using the sergeant too, because she knows that family's going to be dead before he gets there. She just wants to keep him away from there, not break the spell on the outside of the house.
Yeah.
So like, she knows fully well that man's family is going to be fucking dead. He's just being used by just about everybody. I wish we would have gotten more time with the preacher as well. For him to be a crucial part of the payoff at the end of the movie, he spent very little time in the movie. It felt like we get little bits of him here and there, but he's like the major payoff at the end, and we got maybe a few minutes of runtime with him in it.
Little bit, yeah. He was there. He was with the sergeant and his partner when they go to the Japanese man's house to translate 2 times, I believe. Is he with them both times? I know he's there when Jean-gu goes back to hopefully just obtain more evidence, like the photos, and the Japanese man's burned them, but he's there to translate for him. Hey, get out of town or I'll kill you. I'm trying to remember whether he was there the first time before.
There's another scene where Gu goes back to confront him, and I believe.
Yeah, where he kills the guy's dog, and all the evidence has been burned. All the photographs have been burned up. I'm trying to remember whether that deacon in training, his partner's cousin or whatever, was there there at the Japanese man's house before that. Anyway, yeah, it would have been nice. It would have been nice to get more time around him, but it's. I don't think it lessened the ending very much, in my opinion.
I have one more question. If you've seen this movie more than once, on repeated viewing, is this movie more rewarding? Is there clues you pick up on that you didn't pick up on the first time?
I can't say for sure. I think on my second, on my second and third viewings, I was trying to pick up things that I might have missed. But I didn't write them down, and I didn't really devote myself to deciphering that. So,
Gotcha. I was just wondering if there was anything that points to the final conclusion with the Japanese man being the devil, or.
Yeah, I don't have a legitimate answer.
Okay. Well, you got one more question about the ending specifically.
Yeah, just what we generally thought about the ending. Because like Jeff said, the suspense just continues to build during like the last third portion of the movie. That payoff at the end, that's mainly why it was genuinely the ending that made me really put this movie at the top for a horror recommendation. Seeing the Japanese man just transform into what we believe was his true form, and giving us the quote from the book of Luke that we got at the beginning of the movie. I just really liked how that played out.
Yeah, that scene was so good. That transformation.
Yeah.
That was so cool to see how the makeup artist did that. It's amazing.
Yeah, Jeff, what did you think of the ending?
I liked it. I liked it. I feel like it could have been better, but I didn't hate it at all. I definitely agree that I like the transformation a lot. I liked that it wasn't a positive ending, that it didn't end with him finding the killer and saving his daughter. I feel like that really would have undercut the tension of the movie. It was so beautifully paced. Like the pacing of this movie is so top notch that that ending was just chef's kiss, perfect. Just the right amount of tension at the end. I really liked that question of whether or not he needed to trust this white lady that he didn't really know too much of. And upon reflection, I think maybe the fact that we didn't see that much of her adds to that scene because we're questioning her because we haven't seen much of her at all either.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. What about the fact that we don't see Jong-gu getting murdered by his own daughter? That would have been a super impactful, terrifying scene to see. But at the same time, it's kind of scary that we don't see it happening. And we just are left to imagine that happening.
The imagining is what makes it worse for me. If I would have just seen her like cut him, I feel like it would have once again kind of undercut the tension and horror of the scene. I think the fact that we cut away and that he uses that restraint really allows our imaginations to just run wild, especially after seeing the scene in that house. You know what I mean? And knowing that she's so small and managed to overpower three adults, really, is just yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they don't show it because they don't want to put the child actor through it. I don't know.
Could be.
I also think it would have brought less emotion to the ending where Jong-gu is there back at his house crying for his daughter. That was tough for me to watch. Just when he goes back to the house, his wife, his mother-in-law are just completely slaughtered, and he's there wailing his daughter's name because she's technically gone. She's
that it was heartbreaking, to be honest with you. Like him just scream, like it cuts to the white lady and you can hear him in the background screaming his daughter's name over and over.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that our imaginations can scare us more than a movie can. So when a movie shows restraint and allows our imaginations to do that work, I really appreciate that.
I don't know about that. I think stories and writing, like reading an actual novel, can do that. But with movies, you do want a little something to see.
I mean, we do get some payoff. We get the cut to that kitchen and the dead mom and the dead grandma. So
Absolutely.
we do get some of that payoff. I don't know. I don't think that it would have like ruined the movie had we seen her kill the dad, but I definitely don't hate the fact that we didn't by any means.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. The masterclass in pacing for a horror movie. Once again, a staple of Korean cinema. I haven't seen many Korean movies that aren't paced really well. And I think that's also part of the genre blending. We can have the movie get carried by the comedy and the mystery up until the horror starts to pay off. You know what I mean? So we're engaged from front to back. And I think that's why the movie felt shorter than it was. Like the fact that it was 2.5 hours blows me away. It felt like an hour and a half. And that's all credit to the pacing. I was engaged from front to back. I just think it would have been neat if it had been the white lady the whole time or something, and not the Japanese man. But he's kept mysterious enough. Like we see so little of him, and we only see him through everybody else's eyes. You know,
it should have been the stepmom, honestly.
Mother-in-law, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact, and it feels like a truly Korean flick in the fact that it's all family based. You know what I mean? Like it's not somebody going crazy and running around killing people. It's somebody going crazy and then killing off their family specifically. And with the family dynamics in Asia, especially South Korea, at least from what I've seen through their media, that's a lot more impactful. You know what I mean? The idea of this daughter just killing the parents and then going brain dead. You know what I mean? Like that's more harrowing to me than if she would have just run around stabbing people.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much South Korean movies. I've seen Parasite and Old Boy, and I was gonna try to
Old Boy's so good.
make it through this without comparing it to either of those. But I also noticed there's and Squid Game as well. There's a theme of class consciousness
Mm-hmm.
and social critique in those movies. Do you think that it exists in The Wailing?
Yeah, I think their station in life and the fact that they live in this poor village adds to the horror. They feel more vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
in that way. Everything just feels run down. It really adds to the atmosphere. It's very much if we ever get around to it, I might wreck it at some point. But Bong Joon-ho's movie Memories of a Murder, which I've seen this movie compared to, definitely has those same vibes where it's like small town, little bit poorer, something terrible happening to that town. And I think the fact that they are poor and that they live the way that they live, yeah, it just really adds to it. It makes it feel more grounded. Once again, I watch like an American horror flick where something terrible like this happens and they're living in a super nice house and they're rich and they got nice cars and shit. And it doesn't feel as ground level as it does when you.
I can't think of one movie of a lower income family being
for real though. Yeah, you look at like God, one of my favorites, Sinister, which I'll champion. I actually really like Sinister, but you take a movie like that and like, they got this like super nice place and shit and everything's great and I don't know. Yeah, I really like the atmosphere. I think the fact that they're poor really adds to it. I think the village really adds to it. I think it also really adds to their superstitious beliefs. You know what I mean? Like they're poor. They're probably going to be more superstitious and more religious in general, which causes them to believe the shit that they see more. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, I think that lends more to the superstition for me.
Yeah, that because you don't see movies about rural South Korean life, so maybe the people maybe they do hire shamans to perform exorcisms on their children. You don't know.
Yeah, and nobody like dismisses them either, really. Like even the dad, he's like dismissive about it, but he's not necessarily dismissive because he doesn't like really believe that shit. Like the fact that they lean into it and that's a thing that they can rely on, I think is a product of where they live. I don't think, at least the vibe that I got would be that if we saw this in like a richer neighborhood, we wouldn't see a shaman right away. We wouldn't see people immediately leaning into the superstition of everything.
But at the same time, in The Exorcist, they hire a priest to get rid of the demon.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, big Exorcist vibes in this movie. Are we do you think we're ready to move on to ratings, or do we have other bases we want to cover?
No, I think we've covered pretty much what we ought to.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a. I'm trying to think of deductions, but it's really difficult. Sorry, one of you guys go ahead.
I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I really liked it. I really liked how engaged it kept me. I really liked just about every aspect about it. I feel like, I mean, I've said it like 9 times throughout this cast, but I feel like it could have done more, but I don't hate what it did.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a 9 out of 10 for me.
I agree, but for me, it's about a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
I do. I like the sense of intrigue, the makeup, the special effects, everything about it. Well, not everything about it, but I don't know why this movie, like what the message is, what it's trying to say. Like it gives you a twist, but then it doubles back on that twist. I don't know what the point is with that, but at the same time,
Mm.
it kept me on the edge of my seat. So
Yeah.
and I'm curious to know what other South Korean movies can do for me.
I might have a couple recs for you after we're done with the cast. I might shoot them into the Discord.
Okay. Well, like if people like this movie, what else would they like? I know you said Memories of a.
Memories of a Murder would be my first recommendation. Honestly, like that. I would also suggest Train to Busan. It's not in the same vein by any means, but it's also a well-paced Korean horror flick that I think is really well done. But honestly, the majority of the things I would recommend are just Bong Joon-ho flicks because they all kind of have the same. At least a couple of them have the same vibe. Like Mother would be another one I'd probably recommend.
What do you think, Nick?
I wish there was. Yeah, what you got?
Yeah, I'm going with 9 out of 10. I'm not even sure what I'm.
What's your deduction?
My deduction. I don't know. I don't know what I'm deducting it for, to be honest.
I mean, that's okay. You don't have to have something nebulous or something concrete, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next pick, which is Will's pick technically, even though he's not here, it's Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. You've probably heard of it. It's won the Best Picture. It's a very popular recent movie. And I look forward to
swept the awards, really.
Yeah,
that's true. And I look forward to discussing that with you guys.
Yeah, I look forward to telling you you're wrong. It's gonna be good. We'll get there.
It's basically a Marvel movie without Thanos in it. I mean,
I cannot wait to talk about this movie.